Hi, Katie. Thanks so much for having me. And hi to the Radical Exchange community. I'm very excited to be giving this talk to the Radical Exchange community. I was at the physical Radical Exchange conference back in Detroit a couple years ago, and it's great to see the movement growing and to see all the excitement about the ideas online today at the Radical Exchange conference. The title of my talk today is WTF is Quadratic Funding. I am Kevin Owacki, and I come to you live from Boulder, Colorado, where I'm the organizer of the Boulder Blockchain Meetup, the founder and CEO of the Gitcoin project, which is backed by Consensys. And thank you to Consensys. I would not be here in order to talk about quadratic funding and the work that we're doing with quadratic funding without Consensys. So, quadratic funding, the title of my talk is WTF is QF, and I've got about 8 things that I want to tell you about quadratic funding and the experiments that we're doing with quadratic funding on Gitcoin live today at gitcoin.co. So quadratic funding is economics. Back in 2018, when Vitalik and Glenn met, they were both part of separate movements. Vitalik part of the Ethereum movement, and Glenn and the Radical Exchange community also doing their own important work. And they started exchanging notes about how quadratic voting could be used to fund public goods. And what came back was this concept of quadratic funding. So the idea of basically taking capital constraints and using them to apply funding to a group of projects according to a formula, and that formula is basically the amount received by a project would be proportional to the square of the sum of the square roots of the contributions received. So basically, this is a new design for philanthropic or publicly funded seed funding to allow for an optimal provision of decentralized ecosystem grant funding. And so basically the idea here is that we're raising a crowdfunding campaign in which there's a matching fund, and it's distributed to projects in the matching fund according to this formula.